I'm Rachel Torres. I'm 34. And 3 months ago, I applied for the promotion I'd been working toward for 5 years. I had the numbers. I had the leadership experience. I had the team's respect. But apparently, I didn't have the right temperament. Because during a team lunch, yes, a lunch, my manager, Craig, leaned back in his chair, smiled like he was offering feedback, and said, "Rachel's incredible at what she does. But she's a little too emotional for upper management." Everyone at the table went quiet. Someone coughed into their napkin. No one looked at me. And I just sat there, half chewing a salad I suddenly couldn't taste, realizing I was being written off. Not because I couldn't lead, but because I didn't fit his idea of what leadership looked like. So I stopped trying to change his mind, and I let the results speak for themselves. I didn't just wake up one day and decide I wanted that promotion. I earned it, inch by inch. 5 years ago, I walked into this company as a junior operations analyst with a recycled laptop, a notepad full of ideas, and a quiet promise to myself: make yourself indispensable. And I did. Stayed late. Showed up early. Volunteered for the projects no one else wanted. The broken workflows, the clients on the brink of dropping us, the reports with missing data and impossible deadlines. I coached new hires who didn't even report to me. Built templates from scratch that other teams still use. Covered for my manager when he forgot his own deliverables. And every review cycle? Craig would say the same thing. "You're one of the best people I've got." But somehow, never followed that up with a title, or a raise that matched the workload. I wasn't loud. Wasn't flashy. Didn't brag. I just did the work, day after day. And when that promotion opened up, I didn't expect special treatment. I just expected fairness. Instead, I got labeled too emotional. Not too lazy. Not too slow. Not underperforming. Too emotional. As if empathy was a liability. As if caring was a flaw. On the surface, our company loved to brag about culture. We had motivational posters in the break room. Corporate newsletters filled with buzzwords like inclusivity, transparency, and growth mindset. But behind the curtain, it was a boys' club in dress shirts and buzz cuts, where backslaps meant alliances, where confidence was confused with volume, where emotional intelligence got you a seat at the kids' table, if you were lucky. And if you were a woman, you had two options: be quiet and accommodating, or be labeled difficult. Assertive women were aggressive. Detail-oriented women were controlling. And God forbid you ever showed frustration in a meeting, because that made you emotional. But the worst part, they never said it directly. They smiled when they undermined you. They said, "Let's loop Craig in," when you'd already handled it. They asked, "Can you take notes?" in meetings you were leading. Every micro-cut was so subtle. You almost believed it was your fault you were bleeding. That's what this culture was. Polished on the outside. Rotten just beneath the PowerPoint decks. And Craig? He didn't invent it. But he used it. It happened during a team lunch. Supposed to be casual. Celebratory, even. We just wrapped a brutal quarter. Tight deadlines, short staffing, client demands stacked like Jenga blocks. And I'd carried more than my share. Craig raised his glass and did his usual routine. "Thank the team." Shouted out. "Rock stars." Told a joke that only 3 people laughed at. Then someone, probably Lisa from finance, asked if anyone had applied for the open senior ops lead role. I didn't say anything. But a few eyes turned to me. Everyone knew I had. I'd been the quiet engine behind 3 successful rollouts. The role description practically mirrored my resume. Craig smiled, tilted his head, and said the line I'll never forget. "Rachel's great, she's got the numbers, no question." He turned to the others, still smiling. "But let's be real, leadership takes a steadier hand. Rachel tends to get a little emotional." A few people chuckled awkwardly. Someone cleared their throat. I didn't laugh. I didn't speak. I just stared at him, salad fork halfway to my mouth, wondering how 5 years of work could be reduced to a tone, a mood, a label. Too emotional. As if caring too much was worse than performing too little. As if the problem wasn't what I did, but how I made him feel when I did it better. I didn't say a word for the rest of that lunch. I just sat there, nodding along, pretending my appetite hadn't vanished the second Craig weaponized my personality in front of the entire team. Every smile after that felt fake. Every toast felt forced. And when we stood up to leave, no one looked me in the eye. Not even Lisa, who had asked the question. Not even Jonah, who I mentored when he started last year. Not even Tasha, who pulled me aside once and called me her work big sister. I wasn't just humiliated. I was abandoned. No one corrected him. No one said, "Actually, Rachel's the one who saved that Q2 rollout." No one said, "She held our department together when you went MIA during that audit." Because speaking up in rooms like that, that's a risk. And I knew it too. I just didn't think I'd be the one everyone left hanging. I walked back to my desk in silence. Sat down. Stared at my screen. And for the first time in a long time, I questioned everything. Was I really too sensitive? Was I imagining things? Was this what happens to women like me, who speak with conviction but not volume? Who lead with empathy but not ego? That night, I cried in the parking lot. A quiet, exhausted kind of cry. But I didn't rage. I didn't plot revenge. I made a decision. I would stop trying to prove anything to Craig. And I'd let my work speak so loudly. He'd choke on the silence. That night I didn't go out. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't post some passive-aggressive quote on LinkedIn. I went home, changed into an old hoodie. Sat on the edge of my bed. And cried like someone who just watched 5 years of effort get swept under a rug. Not because I wasn't enough, but because I realized I could never be enough for someone who had already made up his mind about me. And that hurt. It wasn't loud or dramatic. Just quiet, heavy sobs. The kind that sit in your throat long after the tears stop. But when I woke up the next morning, something had shifted. The sadness was still there, but it had hardened into something else. Resolve. Not the performative kind. Not some "I'll show them" montage with coffee and pep talks. No. This was colder. Sharper. Focused. I didn't want to leave. Didn't want to burn it all down. I wanted to stay. Thrive. And make him irrelevant. If Craig thought I was too emotional, fine. I'd lead with data. I'd lead with wins. I'd lead with results so undeniable. He'd be the one scrambling to explain why he never saw them coming. From that day on, I stopped asking for permission. I stopped volunteering ideas in meetings where Craig interrupted me. Stopped waiting for praise. Stopped chasing recognition. Instead, I documented everything. Every win. Every client turnaround. Every missed deadline I quietly cleaned up behind someone else. I built dashboards no one asked for, but suddenly everyone needed. I rewrote onboarding materials that had been outdated for 3 years. Trained 3 junior analysts without being asked. Launched a new internal workflow tool using my own free time. And watched it cut our processing errors by 27% in 2 weeks. Craig never noticed. But the team did. People started coming to me directly, bypassing him entirely when things got critical. I became the quiet command center. The one who got it done. The one who didn't panic under pressure. Who listened, solved, and executed. I wasn't loud. I didn't clap back. I just kept showing up. Stacking results like bricks. Until I was standing on my own foundation. One promotion or not. And slowly, the room started to shift. Not because I demanded it, but because I'd stopped needing it to begin with. Craig kept doing what Craig does. Taking credit. Passing blame. Smoothing over his mediocrity with buzzwords and confidence. But while he was busy playing politics, I was building quiet power. People started looping me into meetings he wasn't invited to. Clients asked for me by name. Other departments requested I just take a look at their processes. Even the interns? They came to me for clarity, not Craig. I didn't have a fancy title. But somehow, I was solving problems above my pay grade. I created a reputation without chasing one. Earned influence without begging for it. And the best part? I did it without losing myself. I didn't fake smiles. Didn't play cold. Didn't become one of them just to survive. I stayed empathetic. Collaborative. Strategic. And I watched as the room began to adjust itself. Colleagues who once dismissed me started copying my frameworks. Leads from other teams asked for templates like Rachel's. Even people who hadn't spoken to me in months were suddenly curious about my metrics. Craig didn't say a word. But I could feel it, the shift in his tone when he forwarded my reports. The way he avoided looking me in the eye during stand-ups. He felt it. The quiet threat of someone who didn't need to play games. Because her work was already rewriting the rules. Quarter's end came faster than expected. And with it, the numbers. Client satisfaction? Up 19%. Process time? Down 31%. Departmental cost overruns? Cut in half, thanks to that workflow tool I built unofficially. But the real jaw-dropper? Revenue recovery. One project I took over, after Craig's preferred lead flopped, brought in over $480,000. More than any other initiative that quarter. And the best part? I didn't shout it. Didn't blast it on Slack. Didn't add 5 exclamation points in my recap email. I just attached the report. Titled it Q3 Performance Summary Ops. And CC'd everyone that mattered. That included senior leadership. I didn't need to sell it. The numbers spoke like a megaphone. A week later, I got an invite. Executive Performance Review. Craig wasn't CC'd. He wasn't even mentioned. It was from the Director of Strategic Growth. A woman I'd only met twice. But apparently, she'd been watching. The invite said, 15-minute sync, performance insights. But I knew. This wasn't a sync. This was a reckoning. I walked into the glass-walled conference room 5 minutes early. No sweaty palms. No shaky breath. Just calm. Because I had nothing to prove. The director, Maya Lin, greeted me with a smile that didn't feel forced. Behind her was a screen showing department metrics. My metrics. She motioned for me to sit. Rachel, she said, flipping through her tablet. I've been reviewing your data. Your turnaround on the Feldman account? Your process optimization tool? That's the kind of thinking we need leading more than just a team. I blinked. Not because I was surprised, but because no one had ever said it out loud. Then she asked, why haven't you been promoted yet? I smiled. Not bitter. Not sarcastic. Just tired. And honest. You'll have to ask my manager, I said. She paused. Raised one eyebrow, just slightly. Then she leaned forward and said, I will. 2 weeks later. We had our quarterly all-hands. Same stale bagels. Same small talk. Same Craig standing at the front of the room with a forced grin and his team effort PowerPoint. I was halfway through a mediocre coffee when Maya Lin, yes, the director, walked into the room. Craig blinked like he didn't expect her. He gave her the floor with a quick, nervous laugh. She stepped up to the mic, clicked to the last slide of Craig's presentation, and said, before we wrap, I want to spotlight someone whose work didn't just meet expectations, it redefined them. My heart skipped. Rachel Torres. The room turned. She pulled up my metrics, clear, bold, color-coded. Talked about how my workflow reduced errors company-wide. How my initiative brought back high-value clients. How leadership means building quietly while others speak loudly. And then she looked right at me. You've been doing the job of a senior leader. It's time your title reflects that. The room erupted. Not just polite clapping. Real applause. Craig? He clapped too. But his face? Paper white. That smile? Nowhere to be found. After the applause died down, I stood there. A little stunned. Not because I didn't think I deserved it, but because for the first time, someone else finally said it out loud. No disclaimers. No. But she's a little intense. No watered-down compliment with a quiet slap underneath. Just recognition. Straight. Clean. True. Later that week, the official promotion email went out. Senior Operations Lead, Rachel Torres. The inbox flooded. Congrats! Well deserved. Long overdue. Even Craig sent one. 3 words. Proud of you. I didn't reply. Because this wasn't his story anymore. This was mine. I didn't get here by shouting. I didn't win by playing their game. I changed the game. With empathy. With clarity. With results. So if you've ever been told you're too much, too emotional, too sensitive to lead, let me say this clearly. You are not the problem. You just make the wrong people uncomfortable. And sometimes, that's exactly what real leadership looks like. Studio microphone ever been passed over because you didn't fit the mold? Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone. And if this hit home, like, share. Let's change the room together.